Welcome to another speaker interview for the United Astrology Conference in 2026. I'm Melissa, and today we are joined by astrologer Alberto Forero. Alberto, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah, my name's Alberto. I live in San Francisco. I got into astrology about 7 years ago at work, which was kind of a weird surprise. Since then, I've been very active. I'm president of the San Francisco Astrological Society. I've got my own YouTube channel. I was doing another YouTube channel called Astrology Deathmatch, where we would have mystery charts and invite astrologers in to try to use their own techniques to determine, which person was which. I also I studied with several places, but my formative one was the School of Traditional Astrology in the UK with Deb Holding and Wade Caves, studying horary and astronomy. And so I have a basic traditional kind of bent, but I'm very open-minded. I have a lot of Gemini placements, so I'm interested in like everything,
Nice,
basically.
nice.
Um, and yeah, I also have been running for several years online and something I call the Astro Museum, which is where I've been going around to archives and libraries and picking out interesting images that could be from a medieval manuscript or like a Cosmo 1970s Girl's Guide to Astrology or whatever. Like it could be anything. And I've got a lot of followers and a lot of good feedback from that. So I'm really interested in the tradition that we have, and also looking at all of like the weird nuances. There's actually quite a lot of interesting material. There's kind of a story that astrology ended in the 1700s, basically, and it's
Mm.
really not true. There's a lot of fascinating stuff that was going on and really permeated into culture that I don't think many people are aware of. So I'm working to try to bring that forward.
That's really exciting. Okay, I've got a few questions based on that, but as somebody who was in academia for a while, love archives, love digging through old stuff, what's some of like the coolest stuff you think you've found with the Astro Museum work?
Sure. Oh God, I don't even know where to start. I mean, I've had like literally millions of views. I had it on Twitter and then I moved it over to Blue
Mhm.
Sky. Um, let's see. I mean, one thing is just there's a little bit of a if you're not paying too much attention, there's a little bit of a simplistic narrative that we had kind of modern psychological astrology, and then Project Hindsight, and we had this incredible revival of traditional stuff, and it's people kind of assign themselves into different camps. But there's a lot more nuance than that I think is being missed. And again, I love all the information. But for instance, like Jyotish is still something that people are getting more interested in the United States, but generally it's not a headlining kind of a thing at an astrology conference. So I would look and I would find, oh, here's a Jyotish book in English from 1871.
Oh,
Or here's Austin Coppock's doing stuff on the Decans. People like the Decans. Well, here's a book from 1911 about the
okay.
Decans, and it's sort of like there's more continuity than I think a lot of people realize.
Mhm.
There's also interesting stuff about like um, the glyphs and things like that have changed pretty radically over time. There's a whole thing about about Cancer being a lobster or being a crab that you can see in different manuscripts, totally different glyphs.
Mhm.
So sometimes I'll even go in and like use Google Translate to translate Latin or things and actually try to reconstruct and see what the people were talking about. Um, I just self-published a little booklet about if you know what Sabian symbols are.
Mhm.
There's actually a long tradition of images for degrees, and I found this book where somebody had written down a description and an image for all 360 possible ascendant degrees.
Okay.
And they're pretty trippy and very much like tarot, sort of somewhere between tarot and astrology. So I went to Norwalk and I was sharing that with people, and I love looking at that old stuff and bringing it forward and saying this is sort of like a relatively unknown kind of thing. Is there any
Mhm.
value in this? Let's try it out and see.
Nice. I That's super interesting, especially because I think it's the super academic texts are much more accessible, at least at this point. And so seeing like the larger conversation is a very interesting topic to be covering.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of ephemera too. Like for instance,
Mhm.
I'm a archive library nerd, so I'll go through and I'll find like somebody wrote an article about an astrology conference in New Orleans in 1970, and they'll be like, "Oh, Dane Rudyard's here doing this, and that other person's doing that." And if you actually look at the descriptions of the talks that were given, they're not very different than what's going to be at UAC or Norwalk. It's the same thing. It's like let's talk
Oh,
about synastry, let's do a little bit of Uranian, let's talk
hmm
about whatever. So again, it's that continuity thing that I'm really
hmm
interested in, and I find it touching that our community is really a kind of marginalized community, and yet there's enough love and there's enough curiosity that
hmm
just everyday normal people are talking about these things, printing out these little booklets, sharing with each other, and keeping the field going with literally no support at all.
Yeah.
Just doing it totally on a shoestring. So
Just kind of,
yeah.
I was gonna say, just kind of like guerrilla marketing themselves to a certain point for a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
time. Yeah.
I like going to used bookstores, and you'll always find these like I find them really touching. They'll be like literally just typed out on
hmm
somebody's kitchen table. Here's something interested in the fixed stars, and it's 1962, and I'm gonna type this whole thing out, and somehow it landed, and it's like $2 sitting in a used bookstore. I'm like, I gotta grab that. I
Yeah.
want to preserve that instinct.
That's awesome. I love that. Absolutely love that. Um, Going back to your introduction though, what job were you working in San Francisco? Because I know there's like a reputation for tech, which is not something I would immediately attribute, like astrological leanings towards. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. No, it's a funny story. I was working at a fintech place that was, investments and loans and using technology to make that cheaper and easier, basically. And uh, I was a little bit of an oddball before I, came to astrology, before I understood that. My head was always filled with historical references and symbolism and stuff. And, I would try to share that sometimes in the tech corporate environment, and people would just be like, what are you talking about? This is crazy. Um, so my computer broke one day, and I went to go get it fixed, and I was talking, and I was mentioned the name of the school I went to, and somebody else overheard me, and he said, "Oh, I went to that school too. Oh, okay." And it's like, well, let's get coffee. And so we sat down, and we were talking about the business, and then gradually he's like, I do this other thing that's a little bit weird, and I was like, "Ooh, oh, okay, wait, like red flags going up.
Mm-hmm.
I do financial astrology." And I
Okay.
was like, okay, I'm out of here. Like I bought into the whole myth, unfortunately. But after that, he showed me my chart, and I was just basically got addicted. I think we all have that kind of addiction
hmm
moment where it gets you. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I would love to see more of I think the tech world is missing a lot of the things that make astrology great in terms of intuition, in terms of being supportive, being holistic about things, right?
hmm
Seeing larger patterns in things. A lot of that world is very sterile, in my opinion, and it's not really natural. It's just kind of just that modern scientific thing, and the whole focus is just let's make as much money as possible as soon as possible, which is not a natural growth kind of
I would
rhythm.
agree. I'm a big supporter of humanities, and I won't get started on this because this will turn it into like a 4 hour interview.
Let's
But
do
I
it.
do think, yeah, the lack of humanities in tech is slowly bleeding out. Um, okay, so you kind of,
You can see it in I mean literally the
yes,
economy. You can see it in the people that I don't think many people have positive. We don't have positive role models in tech anymore. It used to
yeah.
be more a place to take some chances. A lot of the there's a book about this. A lot of the early Bay Area tech scene was sort of occult and drug like adjacent, which is why you get games like I don't know if this is a very old reference, but something like Qbert or Pac-Man, where you've
Yeah.
got like literally sort of a wedge, and what does he do in the game? He eats ghosts. Like that's not a rational
No.
scientific kind of thing to do.
hmm
And I think it's when you don't have that balance, it's like you're flying the plane with only one wing basically, and it's not
hmm
healthy.
Yeah. And I will say, because I made my comment about tech and astrology to start, I don't think that's an exclusive rule either, especially when you look at some of the older astrologers and the older work, because it was so heavy on having to know math
Yes.
before, let's say, maybe I'm going to generously say anywhere beyond like 10, 15 years ago, you had to have like a very, very knowledgeable grasp on math. And that's the same for tech back then, at least. I can't say for now. And so I know that there's, a lot of the old software required the same amount of, and so I'm not trying to, you know,
Yeah,
but there is that lack of humanities. And I think, oh, there is that lack of humanities. And so I think astrology in some ways balances that,
sure.
it
Yeah, for
feels like.
sure. And I think, the more I think about it, like the more that you go into math, you end up becoming a mystic. And the more that you go into mysticism, you get into math. So you're totally right about that. Like and actually there's several astrologers that are either coming out of the business world or the tech world.
Mhm.
And what the overlap is like analyzing data, looking
Yeah.
at complexity, finding patterns. That's literally what people get. May not get paid to do that as an astrologer as much, but you can get paid a lot of money if you're a data scientist, right?
Hmm.
And it's like, it's just, what are you using those skills for? Are you using it to try to enrich somebody that you'll never meet, or are you using it to actually help somebody?
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Um, okay. So, you know, getting into astrology in a very tech-heavy city, how's your life changed leading up to this point then?
Sure. I mean, it's kind of a jarring kind of a thing because I'm like literally in the heart of the beast. I'm in San Francisco, and I'm walking around, looking at symbolism and reading things and talking about archetypes. That might have been much cooler in like 1980 in San Francisco. Now, San Francisco is not San Francisco anymore. It's this kind of tech wasteland, unfortunately.
Mm,
So I'm actually, looking to actually relocate and find some place that's more simpatico to that. But on the flip side, I think people like me, I hope, don't just run away from that unhealthy world because they need us.
hmm.
They literally need that warmth, that intuition, that holistic view. You can see what happens when you divorce those things and you separate them. You end up with insanity. You end up with chaos and very, very harmful, things. So yeah, it's also a little bit weird because I feel like this was a hotspot in the past for astrology,
Hmm.
and it's not anymore. And so I've had a lot of trouble trying to actually build in-person, meetings and networking and stuff. And I guess the combination of COVID, the
Yeah.
economy, the instability, the fact that books are like people don't seem to really buy books anymore for the most part. They're just doing it online or they're sitting in their home watching a lecture by themselves on Zoom.
Yeah.
That is maybe a good in between. It's great that we can do that, but at the same time, the real thing is like when you go to a NORWAC or something, you need that person to person. Hey, what are you
Yeah.
working on? Oh, I had an idea about that. Let's collaborate. And that's what moves our field forward. And if it just becomes abstract and anonymous, I think we're not doing well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, at this point, Norwalk was less than a month ago. I was there, and it's an entirely different experience being in person
Yep.
at a conference, being like physically in community with people. And I also like I recognize that that's not feasible for everybody,
Yep.
but if you can, like it's the energy there is just so va like vastly different. And I'd done online Norwalk, other online conferences before,
Mhm.
but like being in person is an entirely new experience. So
Yeah, it's
hard
like
agree.
everything has like, positives and negatives, right? So now I have access to 100,000 PDFs and things that I will maybe never be able to fully go through. I can talk to somebody in Turkey about astrology easily, right? But if you talk especially to the older generation, a lot of it was more we're in somebody's living room, and we're developing something together and we're doing stuff. I think that's an important part, and I don't know what the solution is exactly because I feel like Norwalk is like we have a dysfunctional culture, and it's like we try to pack 1 year's worth of interactions into like 3 or 4 days, and people, they get like kind of hangover from that. It's
Yeah.
exhausting. But what if there were some more local,
Mm.
maybe shorter little interactions we could have with each other?
Yeah. I love that. So you're, if I'm not mistaken, one of our new speakers, correct?
Yes, I'm super excited.
Nice, nice. Have you ever been to UAC before?
I have not. I came in into astrology, I think right after the last one or during the last one. So it took me a few years to get into it. Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. So what are you looking forward to then with UAC?
Well, it's a really great opportunity to like bring my work forward and share it with people and get feedback, see
Mhm.
all the other people. It's a really good combination. First of all, there's incredible variety, right? It's huge. And then you've got like new people and more established people, bouncing off of each other. I've been working on rewriting a book by William Lilly, who's this very famous horary astrologer from the 1600s. He is mainly known for horary, but he has three books, and the third book is about nativities. And there's like hundreds of pages of really good material, but it's written in kind of 17th century English. It's very weird,
Yeah.
just it's formatted horribly. He has these ridiculous run-on sentences. So I'm working on that project. I may present that at UAC about
Oh, nice.
bringing that work forward because like no one has actually used that as far as I can tell in hundreds of years.
Wow. Well, it 17th century English is a a mountain to climb through. So,
It is, but I'm just crazy enough and nerdy enough to do that. I have a lot of language experience, and so I don't know, and maybe too much of a work ethic. So it's like, oh, 150 pages of 17th century English and very technical astrological delineations. Give it to me, I'll do it. No one else would be crazy enough to do that, I don't think.
we need crazy people to do that kind of stuff for the community.
Yeah, for sure.
So I applaud you. Thank you. But that rounds out our time here. So thank you, Alberto. Where can viewers find out more about you?
Sure. I have a website, translationoflight.org. And I have a YouTube channel where I've been putting some video essays about things. I did one about the astrology of David Lynch. That's
Mm,
pretty interesting. So you can check me out there.
nice. I will
Also, I'm on
definitely
Blue
check it
Sky.
out.
If you find it's Translation of Light at Blue Sky, that's the archive of like literally thousands of historical images and weird stuff.
Okay, cool. As, astrologers, I feel like weird stuff is our alley. Just,
It totally is. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean that's all. We're already in that
Yeah.
ballpark, right?
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. If you guys want to find out more about Alberto and other speakers for UAC, go to uacastrology.com. All of this will be plugged down below. But otherwise, have a great day.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Nice talking with you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you for joining us today. You can find new episodes on our channel every Monday and Wednesday, continuing through to the United Astrology Conference in 2026. We also invite you to attend UAC 2026, taking place in Chicago, Illinois from September 3rd to the 9th. As the largest astrological conference in the world, UAC offers an unparalleled opportunity to deepen your astrological studies and connect with the global community. With over 270 lectures, more than 180 esteemed speakers, and 1,500 attendees, this gathering is a cornerstone event for both seasoned professionals and dedicated students of astrology. For details on registration, scholarships, volunteer opportunities, or advertising, please visit uacastrology.com or refer to the links in the description box below.